All right, so get ready because today we're diving deep into Wall Street. We're going to be looking at all the mayhem surrounding Ryan Cohen, GameStop, and, well, just some of the wild theories that are floating around online. We got a bunch of news articles and a handful of really fascinating Reddit threads that we're going to be digging through.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how these online communities are basically shaping the narrative. They're not just reacting to the markets. It's a whole different ballgame in terms of market psychology these days.
Definitely. So let's rewind back to September 20th. Someone, or, some group, dropped a cool $200 million on Chewy stock. That's 9.4 million shares. And then almost right after that, another 5 million shares of GameStop were bought.
Whoa.
Yeah, and this basically set the internet on fire, especially like the GameStop subreddit, RGME.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone's wondering, are these massive purchases connected? And a lot of people think that it's all part of some plan to trigger a short squeeze, kind of like what happened back in 2021.
Right, right. So back then, all these retail investors were buying GameStop stock, and it forced these short sellers to cover their positions, and it just drove the price way up.
Exactly. And so the idea now is that these huge Chewy buys could also end up pumping up GameStop's price because of how some of these ETFs are set up. Like they hold both Chewy and GameStop, and when one stock goes crazy, it can trigger a rebalancing. So these funds might have to buy more GameStop just to keep everything balanced.
It's a pretty complicated idea, but it's like the whole T plus X thing makes it even crazier. It's basically the uncertainty around when these trades are going to settle. It's like a ticking time bomb, and nobody knows when it's going to go off.
I know, right?
And obviously, Reddit is loving this. We've got all kinds of people coming up with these crazy plans, talking about avocados, all these weird metaphors. It's like a meme factory over there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it really shows how passionate these retail investors are. They're really engaged. They're not just sitting back and watching. They're actually trying to figure out what's going on. They're analyzing everything.
Absolutely. So let's head over to our super stonk. They're basically freaking out about a possible banking crisis. This time it's all about New York Community Bancorp.
NYCP.
Right, NYCB. They're the ones who took on a lot of assets from Silicon Valley Bank after it collapsed earlier this year.
Right. And what's got everyone spooked is that NYCB just reported a huge quarterly loss, and they had to increase their loan loss reserves, basically the money that they set aside to cover defaults.
Yeah.
And this is on top of all the other bank failures that we've seen recently.
Right.
So a lot of people on Reddit are jumping to some pretty dramatic conclusions.
Yeah, the comments are wild. One person's like, it's about freaking time. They kicked the can down the road for so long and it's filled with so much crap and corruption. And then there's my favorite, look at me, I am the bank now. It's like, wow.
Oh, man. It just shows how little trust people have in the financial system these days. I mean, we don't know if this is going to be a full-blown crisis or not, but it's clear that those bank failures really left a mark.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of potential, manipulation, there's this article from Investor Turf. They're saying Wall Street might be like weaponizing the limit down rule, the LULD.
Yeah, LULD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this rule is supposed to stop the market from going too crazy, right? Like prevent really big price swings. It halts trading if a stock goes up or down too fast. But the article claims that some of these big institutional investors are using it to their advantage. Like they're triggering these halts on purpose.
In stocks like GameStop and AMC especially.
Yeah.
Which are really popular with retail investors.
Right, exactly. And they're saying these firms are basically using LULD to stop the stock from going up too much, and then they could use that pause to drive the price down.
Yeah.
It's a pretty serious accusation, especially when the article also points out that there might be some conflicts of interest on that LULD advisory committee.
Yeah, like some of the members represent institutions that could actually benefit from manipulating this whole thing.
Right. And then you've got the whole issue of dark pools, these like secret exchanges, where big institutions can trade tons of shares without anybody knowing. And some people think that these dark pools are making the problem even worse, because it means these institutions can keep trading even when trading is halted for everyone else.
Right. It gives them even more power over the price while everyone else is left in the dark.
Literally. Okay, so we've got weird stuff happening in the market. People are worried about a banking crisis, and there are these allegations of Wall Street manipulation. And now, to make things even more interesting, let's bring in Ryan Cohen. Mysterious message and a very specific audience. So, of course, everyone went crazy trying to figure out what it meant.
Oh, yeah. Some people thought it meant something big was about to happen. Merger Monday was a big theory going around. But others, maybe they're just a little jaded, but they thought it was just Cohen messing with everyone again. Like he likes to stir the pot.
Yeah. But Even if he is just being playful, it shows how much influence he has. Like, one little tweet can make the market go nuts and cause all these debates online.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see people dissecting his every move, trying to find some secret meaning in everything he does. It's like a financial mystery that's unfolding in real time.
Totally. And speaking of online detectives, there's this other theory going around that connects Cohen's YOLO tweet to something much bigger.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
So it comes from, like, Tessim, and it's all about the word tits. Now, before you get any ideas, this theory says that tits actually means Tuesday is the start.
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that. Tuesday is the start of
Well,
what?
the MOAS, of course. The mother of all short squeezes.
The MOS.
Yeah. And why Tuesday? Well, this year, National Cat Day and Election Day both fall on a Tuesday. And, Ryan Cohen is all about those cat themes.
That's true. He does seem to love cats. It's a wild theory, for sure, but it's really interesting how people are connecting these totally random things together.
I know, right? And the comments are just, like, gold. We've got stuff like avocado and mayonnaise, which seems to be a running theme, and screw 45, pay me, which is definitely politically charged.
Yeah. Cohen's been getting pretty political on Twitter lately, which has definitely caused some controversy, to say the least.
Definitely. Some people think it's just a distraction, but others think he's trying to bring attention to, like, a rigged system. It just adds another layer of intrigue to the whole Ryan Cohen thing.
It's true. He's kind of an enigma. And speaking of enigmas, there's this other Reddit post that's comparing how GameStop's price is moving now to how it was moving back in 2021, right before that huge short squeeze happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This user is saying that history might be repeating itself, but it's all based on, like, charts and algorithms. No memes, no avocados, just straight up numbers.
Wow, which in a way is even more interesting than some of the other stuff out there. It makes you wonder if there's something real behind all the hype, Are we really about to see another GameStop explosion?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's definitely something we're going to keep digging into.
All right, so we've got a lot going on here. Strange things happening with stock buys, people worried about banks, accusations of manipulation, cryptic tweets from Ryan Cohen, and all this speculation running rampant online. But the big question for you, the listener, is this. Is there some kind of coordinated effort to mess with the market? Or is this just what happens when online speculation gets out of control?
That's the puzzle we're trying to solve, right? And we've just started to scratch the surface.
We've got a lot more to uncover in this deep dive, so stay with us.
Definitely. Things are about to get even more interesting. It's amazing, right? Like how these online communities are basically like breeding grounds for all these financial theories. Some of them are pretty out there.
Yeah. And I mean, with Ryan Cohen throwing out all those cryptic hints, it's no wonder people are coming up with some pretty wild ideas. But let's maybe switch gears a little bit and talk about this whole conflict of interest thing with the people who are in charge of that, the limit up, limit down rule.
Oh, right. That LULD thing.
Yeah, LULD.
Yeah, that Investor Toph article, it brought up some pretty serious questions about that LULD advisory committee. Like, they were pointing out that some of the people on the committee actually work for institutions that could make money off of manipulating the rule.
That's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
If that's true, it means that the rules that are supposed to be protecting the market are actually being used against, like, regular investors.
Yeah, it's pretty concerning.
And then, you've got the whole dark pool thing on top of that.
Right.
Those are like those secret exchanges where institutions can trade huge amounts of stock without anyone knowing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they could be using these dark pools to keep trading even when trading is stopped for everyone else during those LULD halts.
Exactly, yeah. They could be controlling the price while everyone else is just stuck.
It's kind of scary when you think about it, especially if you think the market is already rigged to favor the big guys.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes you wonder.
Okay, so we've got potential manipulation, people freaking out about the banks, all this uncertainty in the air. It's enough to make your head spin. But amidst all this, chaos, there's one guy who seems to be enjoying all the drama, Ryan Cohen.
He's definitely become, like, the king of cryptic tweets. And that last one, the one about YOLOing your life savings, that really threw everyone for a loop.
I know. It's like he knows exactly how to get people riled up. And whether he needs to or not, he's created this whole cult of personality around himself.
Yeah. It's almost like he's playing a game, leaving little clues for his followers to find. And they're totally eating it up. Like, they're making up these elaborate stories and theories about every little thing he does.
Right. And speaking of stories, There's this one theory going around that connects his YOLO tweet to the idea that TITS is actually an acronym that stands for Tuesday is the start.
Oh, right, the MOS theory. They think that the mother of all short squeezes is about to happen and that Ryan Cohen is behind it all.
Exactly. And of course, they think it's going to start on Tuesday because both National Cat Day and Election Day are on Tuesdays this year. And, well, Ryan Cohen and his cat thing.
I do. It's pretty classic confirmation bias, right? People are seeing what they want to see and they're interpreting things to fit their own beliefs.
Yeah. But even if it is just wishful thinking, it's really cool to see how these online communities are creating their own, financial mythology.
It totally reflects what's happening in the world right now. Information spreads so fast, and people are constantly looking for meaning and connections in a world that just feels really chaotic and uncertain.
So true. All right, let's get back to GameStop for a minute. Is this one Reddit post that's really caught my attention. It's comparing how GameStop's stock is moving now to how it was moving in 2021, right before that big short squeeze.
Oh, the algorithmic deja vu idea. They think that it's all going to happen again just based on the charts and the historical data.
Right. Which is honestly more interesting than some of the crazier theories out there. It makes you wonder if maybe there's something real behind all this. Are we about to see another GameStop explosion?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It could happen. But we have to remember that just because things look similar doesn't mean the same thing's going to happen.
That's a good point. But it does make you think, is there a real reason why people are suddenly interested in GameStop again? Or is it just because of all the hype lately?
That's what we're trying to figure out. But, I think we should take a step back for a second and look at the bigger picture here.
Okay, I'm listening. What do you mean by the bigger picture?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a big change in how people are interacting with the financial markets. Social media and all these online communities have given, regular investors a voice, a platform to be heard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just a bunch of Wall Street guys making all the decisions anymore.
Exactly. These retail investors are becoming a real force. They're challenging how things have always been done, and they're demanding more transparency.
And even if they're not always right, even if they're not always making the smartest choices, they're definitely making an impact.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's both exciting and kind of scary. It's exciting because it's making finance more accessible to everyone, but it's also a little scary because it could lead to people following the crowd, believing misinformation, and maybe making some bad decisions.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. But one thing's for certain, the game has changed. The line between Wall Street and everyone else is getting blurry, and the old rules don't really apply anymore.
It's a whole new world. And as we figure out how to navigate it, we need to be aware of the risks, but also be open to the possibilities.
Totally. Okay, so we talked about manipulation, the banks, cryptic tweets, and how retail investors are changing things up. But there's one more thing we need to discuss, Ryan Cohen and his whole political thing.
Oh, yeah, that's been causing quite a stir. Some people think it's a good move, like he's challenging the system, fighting for what he believes in.
But others are worried that he's turning off potential investors and that he's getting distracted from, actually building his businesses.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. And it makes you think, how much should a CEO's personal beliefs affect the decisions they make for their company?
That's a tough question. And with Cohen, it's even more complicated because he's such a controversial figure.
Right. Some people think he's a genius. Others think he's reckless. It depends who you ask.
So how do we figure this all out? How do we know what to believe?
It's not easy. But I think the most important thing is to be skeptical. Don't just believe everything you read online.
Right. And remember, just because someone's popular or charismatic, it doesn't mean they're always right.
Exactly. Do your own research, think for yourself, and don't be afraid to question what you hear, even if it's coming from someone you admire.
Good advice. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Manipulation, banks, tweets, retail investors, and Ryan Cohen's political stuff. But there's one last thread we need to follow all the speculation about what's going to happen with GameStop.
Yeah, is all this hype actually going to lead to something good for the company and its investors, or is it all just noise?
To figure that out, we need to look at what GameStop is doing right now and see if their plan actually makes sense.
Right. Let's start by taking a look at their recent earnings reports. Maybe we can see some signs that things are turning around.
That sounds like a good place to start when we come back for part 3 of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back and ready to finish our deep dive into the wild world of Ryan Cohen, GameStop, and all this market craziness. We've covered so much already. Cryptic tweets, banks may be imploding, accusations of manipulation, and how these online communities are becoming a major force.
It's been a whirlwind. And as we wrap things up, let's circle back to GameStop. The big question is the company actually poised for a major comeback? Or is it all hype driven by, online speculation?
Right, right. To get a handle on that, let's dig into how GameStop's been performing lately.
Yeah.
What story are their earnings reports telling us? Are they making any real progress towards, like, becoming a big name in gaming again?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag, honestly. Their recent earnings reports haven't exactly been stellar. They're still having trouble consistently turning a profit. And the revenue growth? Pretty sluggish.
Not the most encouraging news, but I guess the real question is, do they have a solid plan for the future? Like, are they actually doing anything that makes you think they can make a comeback?
Okay, so this is where things get interesting. GameStop has been making some strategic moves, and these moves suggest they might have a bigger vision in mind. For example, they've been pouring money into e-commerce and digital distribution.
Which makes sense, right, considering how fast the gaming industry is moving away from physical stores.
Exactly. They're trying to adapt to the new reality.
Okay, so they're adapting. But what about Ryan Cohen? I mean, he's the chairman of the board, so he's got to be driving a lot of these decisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't forget about his track record. I mean, look at what he did with Chewy. He built it into this powerhouse. The guy knows how to shake things up, disrupt entire industries.
Right, right. He's got the experience. He's got the vision.
Yeah.
But does GameStop have what it takes to pull this off? I mean, do they really have the resources and the infrastructure to compete with the big guys?
That's the big question. I mean, let's be real. They're going up against some seriously established giants. Amazon, Steam, they already dominate the digital gaming market.
It's a classic David and Goliath story. But maybe that's part of what makes GameStop so exciting, you know? People love an underdog. Everyone loves a good comeback story.
Oh, for sure. And then you add in the whole GameStop community. They're so passionate, they're loud, and they're not afraid to take on Wall Street.
They've already shown they can move markets. But can they keep this energy going long term?
That's the wild card. The stock market is unpredictable. Things can change in an instant. Sentiment can shift so quickly.
So where does that leave us? GameStop, a company with a shaky past, a leader with big ideas, a community that's totally fired up, and a whole lot of uncertainty. What's the bottom line?
I think the bottom line is this. GameStop's future is still a big unknown. Do they have the potential to be major players again? Yes, but they've got a tough road ahead.
High risk, high reward, right?
Exactly. So buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride for anyone invested in GameStop, financially or emotionally.
And for those of us just watching, it's a fascinating look at how markets work, how these online communities are changing the game, and how powerful a good story can be.
Absolutely. It shows us that the market isn't always rational. It's driven by emotions, speculation, and, yeah, sometimes just pure hype.
But even with all the craziness, there are important lessons to be learned. Like, do your own research. Don't just believe everything you read. And never underestimate the power of what people believe, especially when they believe it together.
Well said.
So we've reached the end of our deep dive. Ryan Cohen, GameStop, and all the craziness swirling around them.
We hope you enjoyed hanging out with us and that maybe you learned something new along the way.
The markets are constantly changing. Always something new to learn.
So stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring.
Until next time, happy deep diving, everyone.